Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Kristen Davis, and I will be your presenter for the Beginning Teacher Summit um, this summer. So let's get started. Today I'm going to be presenting a professional development about engaging students with essential questions and exit tickets. Um, And before we begin, I want to remind you that let's work together. Do your best to learn as much as possible and respect and support each other through these challenging times. This year especially has been challenging. So let's do this, okay? A little bit about me before we begin. I have been a teacher for 19 years. I am the English Department Chair for Roxboro Community School in Roxboro, North Carolina. Currently, I teach English 4 and AP English Literature. I have taught all grades from middle school to high school and all over the great state of North Carolina. I earned my EDD at the University of South Carolina in 2019, and so I am officially Dr. Davis. So in my free time, now that I have some, I spend time with my family and my friends, and I read for pleasure. I also enjoy watching NASCAR, professional football, and golf. Okay, I want to give you a personal example. I call it the story of my PDP. Usually, as a veteran teacher, your professional development plan, or PDP for short, um, tends to be less helpful. It just turns into another piece of paperwork you have to fill out. But this year, I wanted it to be helpful to me as a teacher. So I chose standard number 5, teachers reflect on their practice. And I wanted to be intentional about reflecting. So I copied this word for word off my PDP. My goal was I will reflect upon and assess my own teaching strategies to align more towards the North Carolina Department of Education's English Language Arts standards and to more effectively engage my students in their learning. And one strategy I had was to use essential questions and exit tickets. So we're going to begin this presentation by not looking at learning targets or accomplishments that you will do by the end. I'm going to give you essential questions. Now, my essential questions are: what is an essential question, or EQ for short? Why should I use essential questions? And how do I create essential questions based off my own standards? That'll be the first half of it. And then, when do I incorporate my EQs into my lesson? How do I make exit tickets out of Google Forms? And then, when do I use exit tickets in my teaching? So, to give you a background, what is an essential question? It is a deep, fundamental, and not so easy to answer question. It's used to help guide students' learning. It can connect content to prior knowledge and personal experience. And it can provoke inquiry, I can't say that word, inquiry about larger issues. It requires students to consider alternatives and to justify or explain their answers. It occurs naturally, transferring to other situations and subjects. And I'm going to give you some examples. Social studies. Now, I taught social studies for a number of years, and I didn't use essential questions back then. All of this is kind of new to me. So I came up with: how do we study and examine our past, present, and future? For English language arts, my subject, what makes a story effective for its purpose? I know in my standards there's a lot of what is the purpose of this story? What is the author's purpose in telling the story? So that essential question makes a lot of sense. In the arts, how does a song, a piece of art, or a dance communicate with us? Because those things do communicate with us on a more cerebral level. Math. In what ways do we use math in everyday life? Science. How do we create, test, and validate scientific models? And then health and PE. What does it mean to be truly healthy? Okay? And you can take that into various forms and content, and you can answer that question. Okay? So that is an essential question. Why should I use essential questions? That is my next essential question. It lets students know that questioning is an important part of learning. And when they learn this, they begin to question things more critically, not just superficially, but they begin to question things more critically and deeper. It increases student metacognition, which is thinking about thinking. I know that my seniors this year did a lot of reflecting on their learning, and so they did a lot of metacognition strategies without even knowing it. It shifts the responsibility of learning to the student. I try to make my classroom a student-led classroom instead of a teacher-directed classroom, and not be the sage on the stage giving lectures all the time. I want my students to learn and do things on their own because they're seniors and they're almost adults, okay? It encourages students to learn the content in order to answer the questions. So they have to make meaning from those facts, okay? Now, how do I create EQs, essential questions, from my own standards? Okay, you go to NCDPI and you find a standard. You find your standard. This will take you to NCDPI right here, and my English standard is right here. So you need to think about, once you have your standard, what do I want my students to learn? What big ideas do I want them to think critically about? Okay? Now, I like to think aloud. Let's say that it's the beginning of the year, and the students have just gotten out of 11th grade English, and the focus in 11th grade English is on American literature. Now in the 12th grade, their focus is on British literature. And this is the beginning of the year, and I want them to know the differences and similarities between Britain and America. Yeah, we fought the Revolutionary War, we got away from Britain, but I want them to buy into this belief that Britain has affected America, okay? Not just in its government, but in its culture. Big ideas, the connection to popular culture. This is where your students buy in to what you're presenting. Okay, so I chose my standards, and this is a writing standard, and I wanted them to do a short research project because I was preparing them for their big research paper, for their research topic. So I wanted them to get used to researching, okay? And It's W1112.5. Conduct short as well as more sustained research projects to answer a question, okay? Including a self-generated question. And then the next standard is to gather relevant information from multiple print and digital sources. And I got my little Bitmoji right here, my glasses, because I have horrible eyesight. I'm thinking about what I want my students to learn and what big ideas do I want to get them to think critically about. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, the differences and similarities between Britain and America, and my popular culture, which is the students' buy-in, I am going to create 3 essential questions. Now, what are the differences and similarities between Britain and America? Now, that is an essential question. However, I think it's too broad for my project, okay? How has British popular culture influenced or affected American culture? That's a little too specific. That's an essential question, though. But how does British culture impact American culture today? I left out the popular culture because I wanted them to look at the art, the sports, the government. I wanted them to look at those things and really see how British culture impacted American culture and how it affects us still today. That's a perfect essential question for my project. Now it's your turn. Find one of your content standards and think about what you want your students to learn. What are the big ideas you want your students to think critically about? And then write 1 or more essential questions. You can do that now and pause the video, and I'll be back in just a second. That's great that you created your own essential question, and from a standard, just continue to do that. I would encourage you to continue to do that throughout your teaching. When do I incorporate essential questions in my lesson? Well, at the beginning of your unit. You can start off your unit with a framing question that outlines your goals for the unit. At the beginning of your lesson, your daily lessons, you get your students focused on the concept you're learning that day. You constantly and consistently refer to your essential questions. Keep asking your students those questions to keep them thinking. But wait, what if all my questions are not essential questions? That's okay. There are good pedagogical reasons to ask the factual and recall questions, like you connect them to prior knowledge, you initiate the foundational concepts in the subject, and however, the student should make meaning from these facts. They shouldn't all be factual or recall questions, but there are good pedagogical reasons to ask the factual and recall questions. Okay, so regardless if you're questioning, that is perfect. But make sure you throw some essential questions, make them to guide your lessons. Okay, let's review. An essential question is a deep, fundamental question that is used to guide a student's learning and promote critical thinking about the big ideas. Your essential question should be used when at the beginning of a unit or a lesson, or whenever you feel the need to refocus your students' learning. Essential questions work best when they are aligned with the content standards. So take some time this summer and look at your content standards and then plan out essential questions that you're going to ask that are aligned to the content standards. Okay, let's go on. Now, how do I make exit tickets out of Google Forms? I'm sure you all know what a Google form is. It is a easy, simple way to make exit tickets. And I want you to see an example. So if you click here, you can. Notice that I had the essential question regarding theme of fate in Beowulf. And Beowulf has a lot of different themes. So start out with your essential question. And then you can make your exit ticket a formative assessment. And I'm sure you guys know about formative assessments. Formative assessments are strategies that teachers use and to check students' understanding and to adjust instruction to meet their students' learning needs. Now, when do I use exit tickets in my teaching? Regularly. Every 2 weeks at the end of a unit, near the beginning or end of the grading period, or anytime you feel like your students just aren't getting it, or you need to do something different to keep their attention. So anytime you feel that your students' needs should be adjusted. A recap, okay? Google Forms is a quick and easy way to create exit tickets. An exit ticket is a formative assessment, and formative assessments are a way for teachers to adjust their instruction to better suit their students' learning needs. And it's a way to gauge your students' understanding. Use exit tickets regularly, or whenever you feel like your students aren't getting it, or you feel like they aren't responding to the topics that you're covering in class. Now, it's your turn again. Create your very own exit ticket, okay? Use the essential question based off the content standard you created earlier. Then you can give me feedback for my presentation. You can give me feedback here, okay? And I really enjoyed presenting today, so I hope y'all enjoyed it. And I want to leave y'all with one quote from one of my favorite authors ever. It's Elie Wiesel. I taught 10th grade ever since I started teaching 10th grade English, and I read the book Night. And from that point on, Elie Wiesel has been one of my favorite authors. He said, in the word question, there is a beautiful word, quest. I love that word. We are all partners in a quest. The essential questions have no answers. You are my question and I am yours. Then there is dialogue. The moment we have answers, there is no dialogue. Questions unite people. So keep asking those questions, keep asking those essential questions, and may you continue to enjoy and have a productive learning sessions ahead. Please enjoy the summit. And feel free to get in touch with me. Contact me for any questions or clarifications. I've got my email address right there and my phone number and my contact hours. So, guys, I really appreciate your letting me do this. So I will see you when I see you. Bye.